everyone, welcome back to the Railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for another episode on the continued scenery work being done on the layout. This is the last I'll be working on this area here for a while. As you can see, I added some roads for the area, and I'm just doing basic scenery as we go by each of these, but I think I'm pretty well done with this and ready to do the last section, which will be coming up pretty soon. But today I'm going to show you about putting in roads. Before we get to that, though, I want to have a quick commercial. I do have some Tsunamio2 sound decoders for sale for both GE and EMD, as well as Blunami and an Economy, some containers, and a current keeper. Here's one locomotive I have. It's SD90 Mac Union Pacific. I have more of these than I need for my era, so trying to sell them. Great locomotive and a great price. All right, here's work on the road. This was a road that starts in the Wholesome area and it continues along the right-of-way parallel to it as it goes to the little area of Echo. This is what it looked like at the start of the week. The roads, as you can see, are nothing more than a little plywood subbase and some paint and some spillage of scenery material, some plaster that has kind of a creeped into its right-of-way. That area there is actually going to be a motel that is an Echo. And here you can see also some areas where it's a little narrower than it really should be. So I had to do some work to get the area ready for a simple 2-lane road. And then it's going to go into the backdrop hidden by some trees, and then it's going to pick up over here for some more road. That's the last area I have to do yet. All right, so the very first thing I did is get my putty knife and my chisels and just scraped away at the right-of-way, try to remove as much material as possible so that it was fairly smooth. It doesn't have to be exactly completely smooth, but I definitely want to get off as much as possible. It's going to be a thin layer of plaster that we're going to put down here. So it definitely needs to be thin enough that nothing is going to show through on the plaster. Now you can see there it gets a little narrower there, some places where the rocks kind of come up onto the right-of-way. Now I measure the roadways in this area to be 21 feet wide, and that comes out to about 3 inches. And so I needed figure with the shoulders, I needed it to be 3.3 inches wide. So I measured it out and then just basically took my chisel and then just chiseled away and scraped some of the plaster off so that there would be room for a 20-foot wide 2-lane road. It's a very simple little country road. And then also some room for shoulders. Now that's wide there, but I'm going to keep it narrower. Keep it about 21 scale feet, 3 inches. Here you can see I also had to take away some of the rock. And here the sub-road bed gets wider, but as I said, I'm going to keep it at 3 inches. So here you can see, again, some of the scraping I did. There was 2 rock faces, this one here and then this one here, that I needed to kind of chisel away at that. Now the system I'm using is by Woodland Scenics. You might check it out here. Lombard Hobbies has it for $8.99. I used 2.5 of these for this 20 feet of road. And it's basically a thin foam strip. You peel off the backing and it's basically stick to the road. And you can see I got one down, and now I measure this pencil to be 21 scale feet or 3 inches. And I basically just kind of drawn the lines so that I could get an idea where the other side needed to go. And so I didn't need it to be real exact with this. As I said, I just kind of needed an idea. And so I just kind of used this to kind of go all the way around. I found out as I got to this little curve here that I actually needed to take some of the plaster off here as well, because it was a little too thin there. But again, just kind of using this little guide, I was able to get a pencil mark. As you can see, it doesn't have to be exact, and you can see I have scraped off some of it, but I just needed a guide to figure out where I was going to put the other side so that it was consistently 3 inches wide. Okay, so here we have both sides of the paving tape on. Now it looks pretty good. Nice smooth curve, consistent width throughout. And then here's the crossing. I put in the crossing last week, but then I have the tape going up to it. Didn't have to worry about putting anything in between the tracks because the crossing kit had a little insert for between the tracks. Now here I got a little wonky looking here on the right side. I did fix that before I start putting the plaster in. But all the tape is in. And this is the crossing that I put in. That's by Walthers. Then a little curve there for the road. And it was ready to go. Now the plaster I'm using is again from Woodland Scenics, and here Lombard Hobbies had it for $8.99 also. Basically it's plaster, but it's a kind of plaster that's sandable. It's very soft. If you did this with plaster of Paris, it would definitely take you a long time to sand it smooth. All right, so here I poured the plaster. I didn't record myself pouring the plaster and so forth, but it's pretty easy. You just pour the plaster. Less is better than more. If you put too much plaster in, then it goes over the edge, over the tape, which isn't the end of the world, but it's a good idea not to have it go over the tape. For one thing, it'll save on the plaster, and secondly, it'll be less messy. But here you can see, you just pour the plaster in there, and then you use just like a piece of styrene that's the same width as the road, maybe a little bit longer than the width of the road. Now here you can see, to make that transition to the plywood from one piece of plywood to the next piece of plywood, I built a little styrene ramp there. So there would be a smooth transition because it goes from flat to uphill. And I just had the plywood sitting on top of the other plywood. And so there was like a 3/8 inch jump that I needed to build a little styrene ramp to make that a smooth transition. Now it does not need to be perfectly smooth. It's better to have bumps than missing plaster, because it's harder to sand down to the level of the hole. It's easier to sand down a bump. Now notice I ran out of plaster. I was very disappointed by that and searched diligently throughout my entire basement thinking I gotta have some more Smooth It around here somewhere. And actually in a box of some old N-scale stuff I found carton of Smooth It with about a third of the carton left. So I was able to complete it all the way through. Here you can see the little bag there of the extra Smooth It I had left over. And was able to get everything completely filled in with plaster. You can see I kind of went over the edges here. It was kind of hard to do right in this area here because those trees. I really should have moved the trees. All right, then once you get it completed, then you let it dry overnight. You can't really sand this if it's just a little bit damp. So here you can see it's still a little wet. It's not wet to the touch, but it is kind of a cold still. Plaster gets when it's drying. But I went ahead and took the tape off because what I wanted to do is remove the tape from the sides of the plaster, and then I wanted to remove the plaster that was still left on both sides of the road. So once I had the tape removed, then I could go and just use my chisel here and just scrape along the sides to get as much of this excess plaster off all the way around the road on both sides. And once you get that, just a matter of vacuuming up the excess. Yeah, my silent vacuum. There's a lot of vacuuming involved in this process, getting as much of the excess plaster off. And then it's hard to not get some plaster on the scenery. Probably would have been a good idea to put some newspaper or something on the scenery, but it also works to just simply vacuum it up as best you can and then put some more ground foam over it, or however you need to do to cover up the white spots. All right, so I have it all removed. I did let it dry overnight. Then, and you can see it's still pretty rough here. This is what it looks like after you first just kind of spread it on with a piece of styrene. You're not going to get it perfectly flat at all. So this definitely is still kind of rough, too rough to be, something that would look good as a road. But you do have the plaster down. Now, if we go in this direction, I have sanded some of it. Here's still pretty rough. And then now we get to where I've sanded it. And you can see the difference, how it's nice and smooth. You won't get it perfectly smooth. There may be some imperfections here and there. But that actually is not a bad thing. Definitely very powdery. It's hard to get all the powder off. You just have to paint all over it, and then it looks fine. You can see all the scraping I had to do. A lot of plaster on the sides that needed to be taken care of, but I do have it sanded. Here you can kind of see some of the styrene sticking through. That's where the little styrene bridge is to make the transition. And I kind of filled in the sides with plaster so that you had a smooth transition, and then also with the shoulder. All right, then I painted the sides with my basic paint that I use. This is Sonoran Desert. I've been using this throughout the layout. And that's to get rid of the white as much as possible. So you don't want any white spots in your scenery. That's definitely not natural looking. So I basically used my brush. This is the same brush I used for the ballast. And I basically went ahead and painted everything there. You can see I painted the parts that I chiseled off the rocks and on the sides here. Now that will be eventually covered up with gravel for the shoulders, and of course the roadway is going to be painted. And I'll be putting some more scenery materials on there also. Then I went ahead and painted it. Now this first section here is concrete, so I painted it the concrete color. The idea here is that from this is going to be, has a lot of truck traffic, so this is actually how it is. It's basically concrete all the way to Wholesome Cement, and then when you go past Wholesome Cement, it changes to asphalt. So I have it painted concrete up into, you get past the entryway into Wholesome Cement, and then it's painted the asphalt color. And this is using the using Woodland Scenics paint. This is they have a black asphalt, and then also a kind of a beige color for concrete. And the black for the asphalt, usually asphalt in this country, when they put the asphalt down, it goes down black, but then eventually, as time goes by, it gets bleached by the sun and also by the wear and tear of traffic, and so it turns more of a grayish color. And actually, eventually, if it's been out long enough, it will be the same color as the concrete. But I made mine a little bit of a light gray. And then the next step from this was to put some shoulders in. This is using Woodland Scenics light gray ballast. And I basically just put it, spread it on the road like this and kind of rub it in a little bit. It kind of helps to smooth the road out a little bit and give it some, like a powder coat or whatever you might call it from the sand. Kind of roughs up the road, which smooths it out. Don't have so much of the brush strokes. A lot of it just takes the paint drying. But after I spread it out, then I go ahead and use my fingers and kind of push it to the shoulders. I'll use my finger to do this. I also use a paintbrush sometimes, just depending on how I do it. Just take some patience, making sure that you get everything off the road. You can see you have a little bit of gravel shoulder here by the rock face. There are some areas on this road. If you want to go on Google Earth or Google Maps and check out this road, I think it's called the Echo Canyon Road, to be honest with you. It's the road that goes past Echo and then on through, then up all the way through the Echo Canyon. So here I have it spread out pretty good. Now, actually, after I did this, I was looking at pictures again, and I got the shoulders a little bit wider than what they really should be. A little two-lane road, especially in this part here, a little two-lane road out into the country usually will have a shoulder that's not more than a couple feet wide of gravel, and then you have vegetation right away. And sometimes the vegetation comes right up to the road. It just depends how long it's been since they re-graveled the shoulder. I got mine a little wide here, I think. So I might make some adjustments with that to get it, especially right here. This is where it really looks like it's too wide. Now, again, that's going to be the hotel there. You can see some areas that I still needed to kind of push off. Now, once I get everything exactly where I want it to be, then it comes to gluing it down. And for this, I spray it again with the wet water. Now here it's definitely a little wider than I think it should be. So I wet it with the wet water. That's water with a couple drops of Dawn dish soap to get it wet. And then I put diluted white glue. In this case, I just use a dropper to put it in. And I got a lot more white glue on there than I really wanted to, and it spilled onto the road. So you can see it kind of where the darker shiny parts are, that's basically dried white glue. So didn't really like the way that looked. And some places the paint, because of the water setting on the paint, the paint came up. So it had a lot of white spots. Plus there was some gravel I needed to kind of scrape off the road after the glue. Some of it spilled onto the road, so I needed to kind of scrape that off. So by the time I was done scraping all that off and everything and working it a little bit, it was pretty much a mess. But the nice thing about it is that it doesn't take much to put on another coat of paint and just kind of touch it up with the same gray paint that I started with, and you can get it back to looking pretty new. Here I tried to sop up the glue that was on the road. Tried to use a paper towel to sop it up. Not a good idea. It didn't work. So now this is where I have it repainted. It's not perfect, which is actually kind of good. You don't really want it to be perfect. So there is some variation in colors, but it's all pretty subtle. So I think it looks pretty good. And you don't have any more white spots on there. And the gravel is all held in place. I also did, and I have to do some more of this, put some more vegetation around where the yellow paint is. Because the gravel shoulder didn't cover up all of the paint that I had put on there. I did get a lot of it covered up. I think I'm gonna need to put in some more vegetation along the shoulder. Again, what basically happens is that they put this gravel on the shoulder, and then eventually the vegetation takes over and grows in it. And if it's left long enough, the vegetation will come right up to the road. But overall, it's looking pretty good. Definitely looks better with a road in there than what it looked like before. So definitely a major improvement. Still needs some details though. All right, so here's with some, speaking of details, I put in some telephone poles. This telephone line starts all the way on the other side of the Devil's Slide control point, and about every 40 feet. Here's where the trucks are going to go. There's probably going to be a little track crossing there so the trucks can get on the other side of the tracks there. And then it changes to asphalt road through here. I put the cross bucks up. I am planning on putting a crossing gates here eventually. For right now, I just have the cross bucks. This is where the motel is going to go. I'm going to actually cut into that scenery. There's not enough room there. I have a kit all lined up ready to go for it. So I'm going to have to cut into that scenery to kind of gain some more space. Here's the cross bucks. Gain some more space for this laser cut wood kit. I also added a guardrail here. This is a Walther's kit. And I put in a little rock retaining wall there. That's where I had chiseled into the rocks. That looks pretty realistic. This guardrail, I need another kit. I thought it would be long enough, but it wasn't. So I need to get another kit for the guardrail. And I'm going to eventually put some trees here to hide where the road goes into the backdrop. Looks pretty cool. I think the guardrail really helps a lot, as do the telephone poles and the cross bucks and everything. Probably won't do much in the way of putting in lines. This particular road doesn't really have. I might do lines up to Echo, this little intersection, and then definitely not as it goes further past Echo. And of course it's going to need to be weathered as well. But I probably won't get to any of that until I come back again and do the detailed. I might do the weathering, just because it does look kind of monotone. Yeah, probably may do a little bit with the having some scenery encroach on the shoulders as well. But I'm, for the most part, want to get to my last section of scenery, which is between here and Emory. So I have about 16 feet left of scenery. We'll see a couple of tank trains coming through here. This is the eye level of someone who's about 5'8" if you're standing trackside. These are some ethanol tank trains. That's a Intermountain Tier 4 GEVO and a Scale Trains Tier 4 GEVO. And the ethanol cars are by Scale Trains also. I probably will put those trees in also. That's a pretty crucial part of this scene. I really like these white and black tank cars, although to be honest with you, they're not that common. The black ones are definitely more common. These tank trains are about 38 cars in length. Here we have a westbound train, another tank train that's headed up by a Kansas City Southern GEVO by Scale Trains, and then a Canadian Pacific GEVO by Athearn. And then these are their more common black ethanol tank cars by Scale Trains. I want to thank everyone for watching. Stay tuned for more. Hope to get started on the final stage of scenery. Make sure you like this video if you get a chance, or comment. Always appreciate those. Shout out to all our members. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate you helping the cause. Hope you have a great week, everyone. Take care.